It's May the 1st, Labor Day, 10 o'clock in the morning. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, I had the entire Thursday and Friday free to myself. The weather was beautiful, the sun shining and the birds chirping, and my little bike, Tiny, was raring to go. I packed my gear and didn't really know where to head for. All I knew was that I wanted to spend the night not in Germany, anywhere but Germany. Since I live up north, the obvious choice is Denmark, because everything else is just kind of nothing. So off we went through forests and along the Landstraße, heading north. At this point, I didn't even have my Garmin on, other than to show my speed. Eventually I made my way to the A7 heading to Flensburg. Now, riding a small bike like my YBR 125 on a motorway like the Autobahn can be quite scary. She does a maximum of around 90 km an hour, and that's if I really push her. She's much more comfortable around 80. Now, it just so happens that that's the exact speed that the lorries go, so overtaking a lorry is dangerous business. Even things such as crosswinds can be quite the hazard. I don't like going on motorways much. Luckily, today is Labor Day, which is a national holiday, so lorries aren't allowed to go on the road unless they have a special permission. The space that's left open by the lorries is, however regrettably, filled by boomers and caravans looking to put their car keys in a bowl in a field somewhere. After a while on the A7 and some misadventures trying to find petrol, my Garmin at this point was pointing me towards the Danish border, leading me straight through the city of Flensburg. I didn't mean to go through Flensburg, I just wanted to head straight for the border, but not knowing my way enough was my undoing here. I didn't film much of the way through the city, cause traffic sucks. However, now I approached the border between Germany and Denmark. This took me 3 hours from my home, despite it being only like 150 kilometers. My last time going across here was easy as pie. No police, nothing of note. This is the Schengen area after all. But today, we see racist pigs enforcing their idiotic and fascist illusion of borders directed at anyone who dared to enter Germany from Denmark. Because they're all criminals or something. Jesus Christ. Since I forgot my passport, and more importantly, my Kindle, at home, the way back home is going to be interesting. At this point, I am blissfully unaware of these facts though. And here we are. Denmark. Finally out of Germany. The air feels lighter to breathe, the colors seem more vivid, and life is worth living once more. Now that I'm in Denmark, I need to think about what I'll have to eat that evening, and also I really need a hair bubble. Since the stores in Germany were shut, I knew I had to find somewhere in Denmark. Now I'm sorry, but I didn't get footage of the store, but plenty of my ride to get there. After getting the shopping done, I didn't quite know how to proceed. I knew I couldn't go much further, because the small motorbike isn't the most comfortable place to be in the world, and my back was starting to ache a little. I picked a campsite from Apple Maps at random, punched it into my Garmin and just started riding to see how far I could go. It was still quite early in the day, around 3 PM, but I knew I didn't have more than another 2 hours in me. Finally, I arrived at the campsite around 5 p.m. Set up and went to read, but it was then I noticed my Kindle was missing, and so was my passport. In fact, my entire tech bag with my spare Insta360 batteries was missing. I must have left it at home, but how am I going to get back into Germany without my passport? I would tackle that in the morning. I read a book on my phone, ate and slept in my cold and terrible Amazon sleeping bag. I didn't film any of this as I forgot that I was making a video. I'm new to this, okay? You join me the following morning. Look at this face full of joy, rest and happiness. And listen to those very quiet and hardly noticeable birds, even with bloody earplugs in. Entire bloody tent is soggy. Ew. Gonna have fun packing that up. Anyway, 3 hours of sleep or not, time to pack up and head home. It was a beautiful morning, and I love nothing more than riding in the early hours with the sun shining on the fog floating above the fields. I had a bit of a plan to tackle my border problem, but first I needed to get to the actual border, and maybe grab a bite to eat on the way. Also, is that approaching rain in the distance? I'm sure that won't be an issue later in the day. As I approach the border, you might see that this isn't the same border I went through on the way into Denmark. In fact, it's a small village right on the German-Danish border, all the way on the west coast. I had an inkling that I forgot my passport and chose a campsite on the west coast for this reason. Because it's a small village of 417 people on a very quiet route, and this being the Schengen area, where people often live in one country and work in another, I hoped that there wouldn't be any border controls here. There weren't any when I passed through here last year. After the successful and quiet border crossing, I was back in Germany. With my spirits thus having left me, I just wanted to go home. I was tired, a little bit wet, and my back was starting to ache again. And if all this wasn't enough, it started to rain again. And not just a little shower, it was starting to pour down. So much so that I was scared it would hurt my overpriced action camera. So I packed it all up, rolled up my waterproof bags, and held on for dear life for the 3 hours ride home from here. And that was that for this little camping trip. Beautiful sights on the way there, and my favorite part was that early morning ride out of the campground. I've got the full unedited video down in the description. If you like the music, I made all that myself, even composed one specifically for this video. I've also linked my Spotify down there, so maybe check that out. If you liked this trip, this video, and want me to document further and longer trips, please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully next time.